I'm Tom from Do-It-Yourself Home Automation, and this is a look at installing the Moen lounge robe hook in a bathroom. So here's the wall of my bathroom where I'm going to install this hook, and let's go ahead and open this up. Okay, so we've got the hook itself. You can see it's got this nice brushed nickel finish, and the two different hooks hanging down, so you could put two robes on there. Then we've got the mounting hardware, so we've got this little Allen wrench that we're going to use. Then we've got these drywall anchors and two screws and a tool for tapping the drywall anchors. So our next step here is going to be to choose exactly where we want to place this on the wall. So I'm going to put it on the side of my wall. Obviously you want to leave enough room for the robes to actually hang down. Put this into a wide angle so you can see the whole space here. So I'm going to put this in a way that I can choose exactly where I want that to go. So I'm going to mark on the wall where I want to install this. You can either eyeball it or measure and find the center of the wall, or put it off center wherever you want, whatever height you want. Just again, leave enough room for a long robe to come down without bumping into anything. Okay, so I'm going to mark my exact location on the wall. This is the dot. I'm going to circle that so I can see it a little bit more easily. And I'm using this Castle Arts pencil. This is a 2B pencil. You always want to use a pencil when you're marking the wall so you can erase later. Pen can damage the paint, and I like these Castle Arts pencils because it's a little bit softer of a point, so it's something that'll be a little bit easier to erase later. It's a really high quality pencil, usually used for sketching, but it works great for marking walls because, again, you want to be able to remove that mark if you ever want to do that in the future. Okay, now we want to actually take the mounting bracket off the back of the hook here. So you can see on the hook, this is how it's going to look mounted on the wall. I can hold it up and kind of eyeball that, make sure I like my height. Got it relatively high up so a bigger robe can come down there. Once I've done that, I just flip it over. There's this little set screw in the bottom that's holding that mounting bracket in. And I'm going to take my Allen wrench, put that into the set screw, turn it counterclockwise, a couple of turns, not all the way out, but just enough to release that mounting bracket. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and we'll come back. Okay, so you can see I'm just turning it in there. I'm not going to try to do it one-handed, but just turning that counterclockwise a little bit. Now you can see I've released my mounting bracket. I can put the actual hook back down, and this is what I'm going to be mounting onto the wall. So I'm going to put this in the location where I decided to mount my hook. I'm going to center it there. And this is the bracket. Make sure that it's pointing up where it says up. And we're going to secure that to the wall. But before we secure it to the wall, we want to check what's behind the wall because that'll determine how we go about mounting it. So let's do that. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to use my Craftsman laser level and stud finder. This is a great combination of a laser level, which we'll use in a moment, that's self-leveling, and also a stud finder that'll also detect things like electrical wires. So I'm going to press the detector on button over here and let it initialize. You can see what is shown here. No stud where I'm starting, and I'm just going to work this over to the side towards the mounting hole that I'm going to be drilling there. And let's see what we find as we go along. So as I'm over this area, I'm seeing that there is a stud, and I want to look through here and center it on the dot, and you can see I am right on a stud right here. So that's going to affect how I go about mounting my hook, and I'll show what the difference is here. So let's take this back down. Now, if I'm mounting directly into a stud, I'm going to want to use these screws and go directly in, because if it's a wooden stud, I can drill these directly in and it'll be very secure. If I was mounting into drywall instead, I would first want to drill a 5/16 inch hole in the drywall, put in these drywall anchors. So you fold these into the middle, and then I'll pause and show that. So these would go through that 5/16 inch hole. I'd use a hammer and pound them to be flush with the wall. And then I would put this pin into the anchor and then hit it with a hammer a couple of times to set the anchor on the other side of the drywall and then proceed. Because I'm going directly into a stud, though, I can't use drywall anchors. And instead, I can just use these screws. So I'm going to go ahead and start to install this. But first, I want to make sure that it's going to be totally level. So I'm going to bring back out my Craftsman level. Okay, back on the wall here. We're going to switch this on the side, switch on the laser level, and it is self-leveling, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and find the center of the dot here where I want to be installing my hook. And then I'm gonna hold this with one hand, I'm gonna put the camera down, but I'm gonna use my pencil and I'm just gonna trace a line along here, along this nice, perfect, straight laser line on the wall. And that way when I go to mount the bracket, I know that when I'm putting the screws in, I'm putting them into exactly a level position. So I'm gonna put this down and use my pencil and mark that on the wall, and I'll come back. Okay, there we go, we got the lines on the wall. Now I'm gonna bring my bracket back out and I'm going to grab a screwdriver or drill. You can use a hand driver. I'm actually gonna use an electric one. Okay, so this is my Craftsman drill and driver. This is a really great little 20 volt portable drill and driver, a lot of great torque, seems to be really well built. You can choose to go to a slower or faster setting for using the drill or driver. You can put chuck drill bits, or as you can see here, I've got a Phillips head driver bit in there. It's controlled by the trigger here, and again, it's just really torquey, really powerful, and I think it's just great quality because, again, you're dealing with a Craftsman product. I also like that you can press a button on the battery pack on the back of this and you can actually check the power level. So I got plenty of power, so you're not going to run out in the middle of a project. Really great drill and driver, and I'm going to use this. It's probably overkill for what I'm doing here, but it just makes it easy to drive those screws in to hold that bracket in place. So I'm going to put the bracket back on the wall, and then I'm going to show where I'm going to put those screws, and we'll drive them in. Okay, got that on the wall. You can see I centered it on my mounting point, and I've got that nice level line. I'm going to take those two screws and my Craftsman driver, and I'm going to put them in. Okay, so I've got the right hand one in. I'm just going to do the left hand one. Let's finish that. Okay, so you can see that even with the power driver there, it was still pretty challenging to go directly into that stud. I nicked it a little bit on the way out here, but it's going to be hidden by the hook itself anyway, so it's fine. And this is super solid now that it's going into that stud, so this is definitely not going anywhere. And you can see that that's facing the right way up. Both of the screws are in, it's nice and level, and now we're just going to attach the hook. So it's really simple. We're going to take the hook and we're going to orient it down here, and we're going to just align it so that the little channels in this mounting bracket align with these two little pieces inside. And then we're going to use the Allen wrench in the bottom here to tighten that set screw. So I can put this over and just get it aligned. Okay, on the wall there. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the Allen wrench and just tighten up that set screw. Okay, just finishing that up. Now it's nice and solid. And you can see this doesn't wobble or anything. If you find that it does wobble, usually the issue is that the bracket isn't completely flush with the wall, especially if you're installing it on the drywall anchors. So go ahead, if you find that it is a little bit wobbly, make sure those screws underneath there are completely in, and that the drywall anchors are totally flush with the wall before you put it in, but it shouldn't wobble at all once it's done. And there we go. There's our Moen robe hook up on the wall, and that'll work great to hang a robe here in my bathroom.